Okay, so here we are in last Thursdays, and we're talking about pregnancy and rebirthing during pregnancy and childbirth. And we talked already about the conception, the conscious desire of a couple to create and welcome a child to this life, to attract an evolved being who is looking for a supported, powerful environment that nourishes them also spiritually. And so we as rebirthers, if we have that understanding, of course, we can support the parents and counsel them in this. And also, with knowing about birth trauma, we can work with them on their birth trauma and help them heal their own birth trauma. Because during pregnancy, all the fears that are stimulated by their own birth, because that is in the back of their subconscious, will come up. So as I said, the emotions are, the hormones are moving the emotions, and the fathers can just feel the same emotional roller coaster because they're emotionally one with their partner, and then they can just go through the same similar things. And for the male role, of course, it is also like that support that they're giving to the woman while she is going through that experience or through the creation. Oh, sorry. Sorry. So we as rebirthers, we can give sessions to the woman at any, and of course the father anytime, but the woman anytime during the pregnancy, as they are in the 9 months of a rebirthing situation, so to speak.
Sorry. You have a fly on your face sitting on the computer.
No, it's on our laptop, not on like.
I don't see it.
It stays.
So then the only thing that we have to watch out for is, as she is already highly involved emotionally, and we don't want to push the breath at all. That's the important thing. And the only people who can talk during the session are pregnant women. As they're already in an alternate state, if they feel they need to express something, that is okay. That means we still try to keep the breath connected and give them, of course, a full energy cycle, but the full energy cycle might look different and can be more gentle. Very often pregnant women don't have tetany. I have seen it though, so it's not that they might. So sometimes people ask, oh, would that provoke something happening to the child? I have never experienced that. And we don't push them. They don't push on the exhale. They breathe deep and full as they can. In the later stage of the pregnancy, they, of course, have to lie on their side. When the belly is very big, they can't lie on their back anymore. You might need pillows to prop them up so that they're comfortable. And I'll tell you now a few stories about rebirthing pregnant women. One of my friends, her husband left her in the third pregnancy, in the later time, in the later part of the pregnancy. And she was distraught. I mean, she was, yeah, very emotional. The child sort of like that was an attempt to heal the relationship. And here she is, and he leaves her for another woman. And so that's when she did her first session in that situation. So we were, of course, healing the trauma and the pain of that significant loss. And then she had powerful sessions. She felt more calm. And then she gave birth. And then she came back with her child to have more sessions for herself. And I tell you about the child rebirth later. So, of course, a woman can have the same emotional experience as anybody in that situation would have. And we just have to be even more gentle. So, no pushing on the exhale, long inhales, mostly nose breathing. With them, it's even more important to do just nose breathing to integrate it and bring it to the higher chakras. And the baby responds to the energy, either relaxing or becoming alive. And then you see little fists or little legs come out, and they're participating in the session. You have any questions about that so far?
Hi. So it's you're saying it's a much gentler session. So and the cycles aren't as clear, but the main thing is just to get them into a state of relaxation at the end. And would you say maybe breathe less time, like for like 45 minutes, for example? Would that be
No, not that short. The session still lasts 1.5 hours, or at least 1 hour. The cycle you still come possibly through resistance, and there might be emotions, and there's a flow, and then there is a deep relaxation at the end. And sometimes they go also through more than one cycle. But the physical sensations like the tetany or with this friend, I mean, her emotional state was pretty distressed. So they can go through deep emotions like anybody else. We don't want to encourage pushing, and we slow it down. While other people, when they're going through something, I would say, okay, go for it, right? Mm-hmm. But with a pregnant lady, we keep it gentle, because the hormones and her state of being already help her to process it successfully, and they need less encouragement to stay in there.
So more slow, deeper breathing than
yeah. Not that fast, vigorous breathing, and then especially not pushing on the exhale or forcing the inhale or something like that. So your job rebirthing a pregnant woman is to keep her gentle and in a safe environment, so that she can go through that cycle, but in a more gentle, soft way. And like if somebody else would drift off, or breathe not so deep, I would push them, have them sit up, have them stand up, hands and knees, do something with a pregnant woman, I might give her time to integrate.
And
We
if
don't
they're-
want to provoke a breathing that could be too harsh and too pushy.
You said about the connection to the baby. We use the rebirthing to connect with the baby in an early state. Do we change something in the last minute preparation, or we do something that we speak more about connection with the baby? I mean, it's up to us, but what do you
Well,
usually?
I have experienced it, and I might say that. I mean, it depends how mature the woman already is. Some women already, you know, they have a very divine connection. They know, they talk to the child, they can hear the child, they, you know, then it gets even better. But some women don't have that, you know, they have more concerns or doubts, or you know, they don't feel that. And then while they're in that deep state of relaxation and processing, then the baby's messages come through a lot more powerful than they can hear them in their normal state of consciousness. So as we hear messages or information about our life, then she connects on that same level then with the soul that is growing inside of her. The soul is not growing, but the soul that is growing a body inside of her. And then they can communicate. And that's really beautiful, really powerful. You know, you can feel that, and that is so blissful. And they're so grateful for deepening that connection. So the baby is very happy when the mother rebirths, because if the mother has any kind of distress, it will take that stress away. And so the baby can grow more freely without being bombarded with hormones or juices of stress and anxiety. Because as the baby is connected through the umbilical cord, the baby experiences all what the mother experiences. So the more she can relax, the more relaxation the baby has. And so the energy, of course, flows also through the placenta into the baby. But of course, also the mother is vibrating. So all around the baby is a new vibration. We've seen it in rebirthing sessions, you know, how the skin is bubbling and the skin and the face, you know, it's like you can physically see that energy moving. And of course, the baby in the middle of the mom in the womb, everything vibrates in that same way. And so children love that. Babies just thrive on that energy. So their physical development will be better. Their trust in life, because their connection is better. They feel more safe and secure.
I have a question about if the pregnant woman keeps on stopping breathing, you know, in the case in some of our sessions we've like been stopping, if this is continuously happening, is there anything different that you would do? Because they might not be able, like, would you sit them if they can't really sit up because it's a bit awkward?
Well, they can of course sit,
yeah,
they can of course sit up because they are also came to you, so it's usually, you know, they're still moving. It's just they have belly, and getting up is a little bit more difficult and these things, but you find a comfortable place that they could sit up. So sitting up is totally okay.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if there's any positions that they can't get into, but yeah.
Well, very often in later pregnancy they love lying on their side.
Yeah.
And then you have many pillows under the knees and that, so that they they
But
can
yes,
relax.
this is what I want to underline. Please, when you rebirth women which are pregnant in their third trimester, put them on the side, because the baby can be not fully supplied when they're laying on their back, but usually they know it on their own because they get dizzy, because the vessel is like compensate.
The mother
Mm.
gets dizzy also.
Yeah, the mother gets first dizzy and then the baby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, they usually, but they usually know that, you know, so.
And usually they know.
Huh?
Yeah. Usually they know. But sometimes they think, oh, maybe it's I'm sleeping and it's so comfortable, but at one point they
Yeah.
will.
Yeah.
But they know.
Yes.
Would
So
Can I ask you another a quick question? Would there be any situation that could happen where you would have to stop with a pregnant woman? Like,
well, as I said,
a clear sign of, okay, that's enough now. I mean, obviously we have our intuition, but just because you're experienced in this, it's interesting to hear.
well, you do want to reach the completion.
Yeah, of course.
And if you do that with a silent breath,
Yeah.
then that's also okay.
Great. Silent
So
breath.
you can just use a silent breath. And I told you about the story that I rebirthed this woman, and a month before birth, and the placenta, which was in front of the birth canal, then it moved. So there's all sorts of powerful things happening to clear the challenges that are existing. Like you experience the energy in your body when you're rebirthing, so does, of course, a pregnant woman, and so the baby, without giving us notice. But and then challenges clear up.
Heike,
So
what do you
then-
mean by silent breath?
Huh?
What do you mean by silent breath?
For the 20 connected breaths, the silent breath.
Oh, okay. So you can use that to complete the
Yeah.
cycle?
Or also in the middle, if you know, if she feels like she's concerned of something. And I was hoping Martine was here, who was here last time, who did the 3-week training with us when she was pregnant, and could have shared a little bit about it, but it's okay. So now it is beautiful, and of course you can contribute to 2 beings in that session. You have 2 clients, and when the baby then is born, I have, as I said, participated in 2 births, and just the knowing, the trust that everything is okay is important for the woman. So as a rebirther, you know that you can heal anything, and that you can you have a certain confidence in life. Usually a good rebirther has confidence in the healing power and the goodness of all things, right? We have a certain confidence in the life urge, and that gives us trust. And so being present, there is many types of breathing that the pregnant woman is taught for the delivery. Often it is breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth, but there's different types of breathing. And it is possible to breathe connected through labor.
Yeah.
But of course, the woman has to be used to it. She can't start with that during labor. So if you would work in a hospital, and then, you know, people come to you that never did rebirthing breath work for you as a midwife, then she needs more preparation than to be introduced to conscious connected breathing during birth and delivery.
But about this, which Umfang, in which
Well, basically, she just should have maybe 3 sessions.
okay.
And so that she is, if there is intense trauma, birth trauma and all that, then that she can have released that already, or part of it. So then that makes the delivery easier. Her own birth trauma won't recreate the birth trauma for the child. And of course, everybody in the environment should have had sessions. And so in the video Birth into Being, Elena is a rebirther, and she does it with the couple, she does it as a birth preparation. So you could say 10 sessions, 10 rebirthing sessions as a preparation for birth. So you can put that into your advertisement for, supporting the pregnant couple.
Yeah.
And so then during delivery, the connected breathing is possible. And you do have to have a midwife who knows that that is okay, because a regular midwife who hasn't had breathing sessions might not know that. And if you are there as a rebirther and not as a midwife, then everybody involved needs to be aware of it and maybe having had sessions. And then, of course, you create a total different birth scenario with love and ease and trust and relaxation. And that's why the movie is so powerful, because that's shown how the loving environment for the woman, enables her to be in bliss while she's delivering a baby.
Yes.
Now, rebirthing children.
Can I ask one more question before we move
Yes,
on?
yes.
So if there's a woman going into labor and she hasn't had any rebirthing sessions, what breathing would be recommended if she's not, if she can't, if you're saying you need at least 3 sessions to kind of to use the conscious connected breath throughout a labor, is there something which is like a little, what could you do if they
I would
haven't
ask the
had one
midwife.
session?
I would ask the midwives, because it depends what kind of breathing the midwife has taught her. They work usually in the birth preparation and giving a certain type. What I understand here from Pauline is that you didn't learn the breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth, right?
We learned different. I mean, I think we didn't learn, but we spoke about different breathing methods, and there was for sure breathing in through the nose, breathing out through the mouth. I try to remember how the women are breathing, and it's quite irregular. They don't have a specific type, because the comfort, the discomfort, the tension gets stronger. Then they're restless. They make noise. It's there's not a certain way to breathe for during the whole labor, and also in the end there is a different breathing technique which is applied, because they, with a long breath, they also push in the same time, and you make more the surface breathing to I mean, this is now in detail, but there's not the one breathing. It has to be, you have to, for example, you cannot say to your sister any breathing which she can apply during the whole birth for sure the big belly breath.
Mm.
But there's not the one solution because it really depends on the situation.
Right. Okay.
Right. And what you mean was the last state when these very strong contractions come, they have a name too, right? The push out contract.
Yeah,
I don't know what the word for is the appropriate, but it depends also on the level of pain that she experiences. So they also need to relax into the pain, but at the same time, they also need to be active and pressing and pushing. So that's why I say if they haven't learned the connected breathing to release the pain and stay in the flow, you know, you could do that through the mouth, or you could do that silently, or to relax in between the contractions. So, but if she hasn't learned that, then I would leave that to the midwife who's taking care of her and not suggest anything else. If she has learned,
We do the sessions
huh?
before. Yeah. Unless we do sessions before.
Right.
And then
If
it's
she
okay.
has had a few sessions,
Yeah.
then of course she knows the connected breathing. The connected breathing is not overwhelming her with sensations, you know, through the connected breathing. And then she can she also not during the whole labor has to breathe connected, but in the moments of contractions, she could either breathe faster, she could breathe more on the inhale or more on the exhale, so dependent on the state of the contractions. But then she is more prepared to play with the connected breathing. Yes?
Yeah. Would you have cycles within that then in a labor if you did the connected breath?
Well, the
Would you-
labor is totally dominated by the contractions and how often they come. If they come at the end very fast and so overwhelmingly powerful, then the woman feels like she's barely surviving sometimes. And in that state, well, you would have to be in the present moment to see how you can help her deal with the pain. It's not like Paulina said, it's not possible to really give a general idea
I
of
understand.
the kind of breathing.
Okay.
But if she is in very much pain, you can always encourage her, if she has had sessions, to breathe connected.
Yeah.
And that could be faster or it could be deep. So that depends on, you know, where she is.
Thank you.
Yes?
Yeah.
yes.
So now rebirthing the baby, and Leonard wrote about it in, I don't know if, Kimberly, did you read that? The power of birth and rebirth?
A tiny bit. There hasn't been much time to do
So
extra.
Leonard always describes in this book how he rebirthed his son, who was a few days old. And he always said that his wife reenacted her own birth trauma. So the boy ended up after the home, not in a home delivery as they had done with the first child, but in the hospital, and then ended in the oxygen tank. Not tank, in the oxygen tent.
Oh.
Uh-huh. And so he said it was more difficult to get him out of the hospital than getting somebody out of prison, because they didn't want him to take the baby home. And when the son was home, then after the second or third day, he started rebirthing him. And he describes the session, and he was crying, and at some point he was making the same sounds as his mother was making during labor. And then he took the boy also in the bathtub, and he had warm water sessions with him. So, and as you can't tell the child, keep breathing, and it is not a good idea if you breathe for them, because then you're just opening your chakras and you're going into your own process. The stimulation of the breath either happens with gentle rocking if you're holding them or you have them on your lap. So they do the same thing as a grown-up. They hold their breath. And some of the little kids, the babies already have had so much birth trauma or so much trauma that they're also having breathing deviations. So to correct, for example, the holding of the breath, you would use massage along the spine. You might open their arms. So that stimulates the inhale. So when you open the chest, it stimulates a longer inhale. If you push against the legs, against the belly, like with the knees bent, that also stimulates an inhale. And then if you rock them gently, so the baby needs as much safety, security as a grown-up. They're going through also through a cycle or more than one cycle, but they're the cycle looks different. So you can see they have rapid eye movement. We haven't really talked about that. That's when you see under the eyelid that the eye is moving. That's
I
what
saw-
happens.
Yeah, and
That
tune as well.
that happens when we dream in sleep, when we visualize things. So the eye movement, you can see in that eye movement when people are thinking, dreaming, or when they're processing something. Because that, like, they're following with the eyes their vision that they're having. And so I don't know if I told the story, but I tell that again. That child that was already 2 years old and was handicapped, and the doctor had thought that he was dead and put him on the windowsill, put him aside. And after half an hour, he realized the baby wasn't dead, and then took care of the child. And the mother was furious about the doctor not taking care of her baby.
Yeah.
And the child was totally disabled. Like, it wasn't speaking, it wasn't crawling around, it had the head bent like this. And when I rebirthed him, and the mother was rebirthed in the other room with my colleague, when I rebirthed the child, it had cycles, like you could see the eyes moving, meaning there is a memory, he's thinking about something. Then he would start crying, because that's the only way they know. And no matter how much you say, keep breathing, that doesn't do anything. So then they go into the memory like we do, but you can follow the instruction, keep breathing. They don't. So then their only way out or expressing it is crying. They start crying very seriously if they're in the memory of deep trauma. And for you as a rebirther, it's important that you're prepared for that. That you can hold that space without getting plugged into your own birth trauma or your suffering. So you have to hold the space with that knowing that he can heal. So then I would gently rock him. I had him sometimes over my shoulder, or I had him lying in front of me on my legs. And so then I would take him up and gently rock him to find the breath. And it's with the same like with a grown up. They find the breath. Like the flow that you find after the peak of the trauma, right? We find the flow, or the flow finds us, right? And then it becomes effortless. And that's the same thing happens with a baby. The breath will find them, or the flow will happen. And when the flow happens, then you know, they release. They release the tension, they relax, they release. And then you see the eyes moving again, they're going into the next memory, and you know, uh-oh, next round. And then they start screaming bloody murder. Oh my God, that was so terrible. And so when I was rebirthing that boy, I was talking to him and I was just saying, tell me all your pain. You can tell me. And he did. He just expressed himself and screamed and cried and all that pain. Like we experience it in a rebirthing session, it's so much closer for them. They are so much more in that pain because the memory is not that old. It's not that suppressed. And then you gently rock them, you massage them, you open their arms, they find the breath at some point, the connected breathing starts, and then they're in the flow again and release. And so when you rebirth a baby, our job is, as with grown-ups, to hold that space, allow them to express, and find the flow, find the breath. And I've rebirthed many, many babies, small, very small, and also like in that age. And like when my friend came back after she had delivered the baby with the divorce, so he was lying next to her, and we had made an appointment so that he probably would sleep, and that was okay for the first session. So she had a powerful session, you know, releasing what she had to release. And in the next session, the baby thought, now today is my turn. So he wasn't just lying there, he started crying. So now I have two clients, and I thought what to do. So I told her, you have enough session, please keep breathing. I sat right next to her, and I was rebirthing the boy. And so, and the boy, he was crying intensely and expressing and you know, and then he found the flow, and at the end you can see they're not looking at you as a body, they look into your aura because they see the aura. And so the baby, when they look around your physical body, they're seeing lights and you know, they're seeing the aura. They might see angels and things like that because the world of spirit is still shining through them or is totally around them. It's a very sacred state of being. The world of spirit, when we grow up a little bit more and we become a bit older, enters us, and we have to express it. But for the baby, the world of spirit, and that's what I learned from Steiner, the baby is still totally immersed in beings. that are protecting, guarding, shining for them so that they safely can grow up. So it's a beautiful space, and that's why it's so troubling when children have already are traumatized or growing up in a victimizing environment, because they're so pure and so open. So that baby, after a 3-hour session, it was a very long session in which he had many cycles. And every time he relaxed, his mother started crying in the next room, releasing her agony, you know, and her anger about that situation, her grief. And so they trigger each other. But so when I came back with the child to the mother, and we had separated them because we want individual sessions, right? So when I came back to the mother, and the therapist the next day said it was a new baby. The head was straight. He was looking completely different than before. So he had been holding all that tension, lying there on the windowsill, not really being warm, you know, in that newborn body. And all that tension was just locked up in his structure. So that's how the tension, our birth trauma, is locked into the muscles and the cellular tissue. We talked about birth trauma, and they are still in it, so to speak. So baby massage, finding the flow of the breath, all these things are essential for the staying relaxed in that physical body that they have to adjust to and find their way in life. So my goal is always to teach the parent to rebirth a child. I'm not working with children when the parents don't work on themselves, because it just takes their defense mechanisms away. They're going back into the same environment of whatever is happening there, the stress of the parents, and they're one with them and they're totally open to it. It doesn't make sense to release that if the parents don't know what to do with that baby. So at least one of the parents has to do sessions. And with that baby where we moved the placenta, I went there after birth again, and the birth was very traumatic because she only had that few sessions and she didn't want to do anymore before birth. And so they still had a very traumatic birth. And when I went there after a month, I was rebirthing the father upstairs, and the child in downstairs went into his session because they were telepathically communicating. So when the father released his stuff, the baby also was able to relax and release his pain. So the parents and the child are so interconnected. It's good to help each one of them to release the pain. And then the bond gets deeper, the healing, the love gets deeper, and then the baby doesn't have to grow up with all that trauma. And that boy of my friend with the divorce, he would cry and cry in the sessions, and at the end he would just smile. And every time he saw me, he was very happy. You would think, oh, don't trust her, she makes me cry. But no, he just loved me whenever he saw me. because he knew, wow, I can let go of all that stuff. Because he was feeling the anxiety, of course, of his mother. She was a single mom now with 3 kids. She had to go back to work at some point. And so when you see on my website a picture where Leonard is sitting in the bathroom and next to him is a little boy, that's actually him. So they came back when he was about 2 or 3. Did I tell you the story?
Yeah.
And so they came back, and we were here in my kitchen because I didn't have my upstairs center yet. And Leonard's approach was, okay, let the child get into it by himself, because he will relax so much in our sacred presence that at some point he will get into his stuff. And that usually happened. Leonard's presence was so powerful, at some point they just entered a session. And so, but we were there for 2 hours, not much happened. And so Leonard said, okay, it's probably nothing going to happen today. And when she put that shoe on, that little shoe, then it started. Because he was a good boy. He knew his mother is overworked. She is in stress. Every day she delivers him at the caretaker. And that shoe being put on was the signal, now I'm going to be dropped off. And then he started crying. And then and Leonard said to let him crawl over her. So he was crawling over her, and at the end he ended up with his head trying to crawl back into the birth canal. He wanted to get back to the womb. And it was really amazing, he was just there, like, let me get back in. I want to go back where I'm protected and safe. And Leonard always said that the death urge is also connected with birth trauma, because the only safe place that we know is getting back into the womb. But how do we get back into the womb? The only way is to die and get a new body. So if we are so unhappy, we want to get back to that sacred, protected, safe place that usually the womb represents. So death is a back way of getting back into the womb. So, and of course, as you're working with the parents, you know the problems that the child has, because very often it is very much related. And of course, they have their own history, their own karma, their own story, and they come with their own mission, so to speak, in this life, to do their own healing and development of the soul. But they've chosen those parents because they provide them with those challenges or learning experiences usually. And that's not to say that it's the fault of the parents, but it is just that environment that they're looking for that helps them to develop their soul. And so rebirthing children takes a lot of sensitivity. I would suggest you only do that after you've taken really a few people through 10 sessions, after you're familiar with complicated situations. This is not something to experiment with. It's such a sacred space, and you have to hold that space because you have to trust that the baby is safe also, and that they're safe when they go into their memories. And the baby will know that. Can I feel safe and totally relax and surrender and express myself. Because the usual thing, what the mothers do if the crying is too much and they feel they can't handle anymore, it's like pacifier, schnuller, or to give something to eat, to give the breast. And that is good if the child really is hungry. But if the child is just expressing upset, then it connects food with the trauma and the suppression of the trauma. And that's where we learned it. Food abuse is actually very often from early infancy, because we are substituted maybe with food instead of just being free to express ourselves. And of course, it's difficult to handle a screaming baby. And they can scream extreme, 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 and you become so overwhelmed with that concern and worry, and as a parent, what to do now, and that pain that is expressed. And it triggers your own, and if you don't deal with your own pain successfully, then you want to do anything to calm the child down. And I have rebirthed these children, I've sat with them, and I have told them, so you have to make sure that the baby doesn't need new Pampers. You have to make sure that the baby has eaten maybe 2 hours before, so it's not immediate hunger while they're crying. So you know that their well-being is taken care of, and only then you can say, okay, I think this is just an expression of emotion. And the mothers usually know. The mothers know the art of oh, now he's hungry, now he is cranky because he has something in his Pampers, so the mother learns that language. And you have to make sure when you rebirth them that nothing of those needs have they have a priority. You can't breathe away a burning butt because the Pampers is full. That's not the goal. You can't breathe away if you haven't eaten for 6 hours. I mean, you can, but that's not the goal.
No.
So in a session, then would the mother be, if it was a really young baby, would the mother be present, or would you rather not?
Well, no, that's what I was starting before. I want the parents always present.
Yeah.
I want them to learn.
Yeah.
I want them to rebirth their child, because I'm not always going to be there. They will be the main key rebirther for their child, but they can only do that after they have their own session. I want them to see what I do. I want them to I don't want to take the child away. I only did that in that situation with the mother because she was highly emotional and grieving. And she wasn't of any help in that situation because she was emotionally demolished.
So if the parents haven't haven't had rebirthing sessions, then does that mean that you wouldn't want to work with...
I would probably not rebirth the baby.
Yeah, that's right.
I often don't hold a baby, because if they relax in my arms and they start a session, which can happen, then in my presence, then I would want to do a session, but the parents are not prepared for it. And they wouldn't understand what I'm doing. Why do I let the child cry? what happens when they get into the flow. You know, they might put any kind of weird thought onto that situation. The parents are the key caretakers, and they have to be involved. They have to understand. They have to understand the need for expression. They have to understand the memories that are coming to the surface. They have to understand the flow that I want the baby to get into. And they have to understand the kind of relaxation that can happen to the child. And they only know that if they've experienced it by themselves.
But where's the difference, or what are the signs? Where's the start? Because when you, yeah, because of my profession, I'm handling, or I'm used to have babies or be close with babies. And where do I see if it's when I'm sure about, okay, the pampers is fresh, the baby ate, and all these signs, they had enough closeness, suppressing or not showing emotions, or seeing memories, reminding memories. Like where's the difference of just caring about the baby and rebirthing a baby?
Well, the caring is anything that you do that is not connected to their breathing. The rebirthing is really getting them into the breath. And so when they have eaten too close before, you also don't want to rebirth them. You know how it feels when you have a full belly when you're breathing. And they might throw up. So the food has to have settled in, so to speak, in the stomach.
But I mean, we cannot influence the breathing because they're breathing anyways on their own. And you said even
No,
when
you
we say
can induce it with moving the feet against the belly. The not the feet, the knees up with the feet, you know, pressing under the feet. Exactly. And then pressing under the feet, under the sole of the foot. And that's how you can stimulate birth memories.
okay.
Or you just wait for them to get into the stuff. And that is also, you know, sometimes they just cry, not because of physical needs. And the mothers usually know that when they get cranky. And that's why you need the parents involved, because that might be at 2 o'clock at night. So, you know, it's not your working hour. And the mothers should know, okay, the child is not hungry, it's not needing fresh pampers, it's not itchy. I have him in my arms anyway, and here he's expressing crankiness. And then he starts with a rapid eye movement. But that is education of the parents.
Yeah.
And in the beginning, you can be there and show them. And when they understand their own sessions, then they will be capable of supporting their child. Just holding the baby when they're going through the process and stimulating the breathing. And the babies have a connected breath anyway, much more than we have. So they're in a connected breathing. And if you keep it going instead of letting them make pauses, you initiate the flow.
Okay.
I
And if
guess
you're working in a hospital,
late here. I'm gonna say goodbye. It's late here, so I'm gonna say goodbye.
anything that you want to add, Anna, before you go?
No, unfortunately, I didn't have experience in that area yet. I'm really happy to hear that again, and now I can imagine it much better than a year ago. So it's really nice.
Okay, Great that you're here. I'm going to the US on Monday.
Nice.
And the next time we meet, I will be in the US.
Cool.
You come for the last Thursdays.
Of course I will.
And let me know where you're going.
Yes.
Good to meet you,
Yeah.
Anna.
Nice to meet you all. Have an amazing end of training and stay in touch and talk to you soon.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining.
Enjoy the time.
Bye. Thank you.
So, just to finish this, when the child grows up, then you can communicate to them differently. When you have an 4 or 5-year-old child, usually it's best to rebirth them when they're at effect, meaning they hurt themselves, they're cranky, they're upset about something, and then you can tell them, okay, let's start and let's try something new, let's breathe connected. Because if you tell them, okay, let's do some connected breathing, and then they get emotional, they will not want to do that again. But if they're already in their stuff, they feel the power to get out of their sensations and feelings or move into relaxation. So they hurt themselves in some way and they're crying. You say, okay, let's try the connected breath. And that's the way to play with it. You can play with a 20 connected breath, but not too long. And then whenever something is up, that's your opportunity. And if the parents are rebirthing, again, they have to do the work before you work with the child. Then often the child says, oh, mommy, you should have a session now. If mommy becomes cranky, the child knows, oh, after the session, mommy is feeling better. And many children, they're like, they become the healer of their parent, and they say, okay, I think mommy, now it's time to relax. I have many stories like that where the parents just say that the child just says, okay, mommy, or daddy, your state of being is not tolerable. They don't say it with those words, but go breathe. And then when the child gets older, then they can, like after 10, but maybe better when their own personality develops, then they can have their own sessions. I mean, then they can have appointments with their own sessions.
Okay.
Because their personality is settling in, their consciousness about themselves, and then you can discuss things with them. With little children, we didn't do the crawling through the birth canal. Maybe
Oh,
maybe Max can put it out, so we do it tomorrow morning
yeah,
before
let's
the
do it
cacao.
tomorrow morning.
Yes, with cacao.
Yeah.
Before the cacao.
Yeah. Reborn.
Okay, so that
Okay.
and then with handicapped people, I've rebirthed many special needs children, also special needs young adults, because I was working with many of them in a nursing home close by here. And no matter what, there's one boy, his mother died at his birth. He was born in Russia, and she fell or something, and so he had different labels like autism. He is on at the state, he plays like a 4-year-old, 3-year-old, 4-year-old with little dolls and things like that. And so he was very anxious when I started my first session with him, and very concerned about punctuality. He would get really outraged if things were not happening as he thought they should be happening. And every time he watched the news, he would get very upset. But he speaks a mix of of Russian and German. And so not to understand, for most people don't understand what he says, so he can't really communicate clearly. And so his legal caretaker, she had sessions, and so I did the first session with him. He just came in as an autist. They don't show facial expression and didn't communicate much. He just lay down, but he breathed for 1 hour without stopping, and then he just got up and went out. And I was, it was my first experience, and I thought, oh, that's interesting. But he found the breath. He understood connected breathing, and then he did. And then in one session, he got the information or the insight, stop watching news. And he said that, he communicated that to me. He said, news, or something, And so he never watched news again. He only watched football games. He knows all the players, he's highly intelligent in that way, memorizing things. And then after some sessions, whenever I came, he just came running with open arms to me.
Oh.
And he was not as some of the staff members were frightened of him because he's a beautiful, young, tall man, 24 or something. And his whole, he totally relaxed. He wasn't as anxious for time anymore. And they had like a snoozle bed, like a water bed. And we would do the sessions on there. And it was a challenge because he also kept forgetting to breathe. So, but he just, then at some point, he just followed my instructions. And so he had different cycles in his sessions. And every session, he had a powerful release. And he was very relaxed. And then in later sessions, I gave him about 20 or 30 or something. In later sessions, he would, at the end of the session, he would just lie there and tell me what happened, what was in his mind. And we would make the next appointment. And I thought, what would happen if his full consciousness comes back? But I didn't think it was a good idea because now he's really taken care of. And it would be such a transition, and there wouldn't be an environment that could hold that transition.
Wow.
But he is such a beautiful being. I really love him.
Where is he now?
He's still in that home. And so there is every person, every being, every human being who's breathing can find the flow. And it's just stimulating to the breath to find that flow. And not in a playful way, dependent on the kind of development or consciousness that they have. You can do that while they do exercise. I had one of the boys there, he was a twin. He was the second. His brother was a healthy boy and always taking care of him, but the boy, and that happens sometimes with handicapped children, the healthy one feels not good about being healthy, like they feel guilty for being healthy because the other one is not healthy. So his brother actually died in a motorcycle accident when he was about 20. And that was a big shock for the mother. And then the mother gave this one away.
Oh,
And he is physically handicapped. He has challenges with walking, and he is also he can't really verbalize, communicate properly, and so I gave him warm water sessions. I walked with him, during the walk, having him breathe. I first we did the sessions dry, of course. And then whenever he was in stress, and I had a friend on that ward working with him, and he said that whenever he had stress, he would breathe. He would remember, and my friend would remind him also, start breathing. And then he would go into the connected breathing. And he had epileptic seizures. And so when I rebirthed him a few times, then the seizures would stop. And then they didn't call me again. And then he didn't have seizures for a few months. And when he started having seizures again, they called me again. And to give him more sessions. So it reduced his epileptic seizures. It reduced his stress. And so there's on whatever level of consciousness there is in that being, in that so with that the soul has available for that body, you just work on that level what they have. And the breath, the flow, will find them.
I have a quick question on epilepsy. For something I remember, for a breathing thing, that there was this breathing thing that I was doing, and they were saying, they had like a disclaimer saying, if you have epilepsy or I don't know, heart problems or something, please check in with your doctor before. Like,
Well, doctor doesn't you.
No, I don't believe in that. But what I mean is, why specifically would they choose to say to cover their asses like that? You know what I mean? Like, because
it's of course the fear of the one who does the sessions. Yeah. And if you rebirth somebody who has epilepsy, you need to be informed what to do when they have a seizure.
Okay.
Most people, when they have seizures, they know how to get themselves through. And you need to know what you need to do when a seizure happens.
Yeah.
On a medical term.
Yeah.
Or practical term, what is the emergency procedure? So of course, and if you do group sessions or whatever, and you have these people, it's challenging. You can't take care of them properly. So, but I gave sessions to a woman, and she was epilepsy, and she had a seizure. But I knew what to do. And that boy, he never went into a seizure while we were having sessions. On the contrary, the seizure stopped. But that's the thing. And with heart failure, then of course, cold water is really powerful. But they also have to have a strong life urge. You have to strengthen their life urge. And you can do gentler breathing. So you have to prepare the person for the situation that those memories or diseases or symptoms come up. And you have to be prepared for that.
So when a client fills in a form, would that be something included? What's your medical history?
Of course, that's
yeah.
that's in
Is
it.
that
Yes.
included, but is that included on that sheet that you've given us?
Yeah,
'Cause I
yeah,
haven't.
yeah. So you need to know the medication. You need to know accidents, emergencies, critical physical conditions. That's what I usually ask.
Yeah.
You need to be informed about these things. And then with epilepsy, one suggestion could be to do the 20 connected breaths, the 7 different types, for a month before they do their first session. So they're already relaxing.
Yeah.
They already know how it feels when the tingling starts. They already have a little bit of an idea. And then you can do a full session.
Yeah.
But somebody with epilepsy who has frequent seizures, they're having the seizures anyway.
Yeah.
Only not in your presence. So, you know, you're not creating anything worse. The only thing is that you need to know how to handle that situation.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
Because
absolutely.
if they go into a full seizure and, you know, sometimes the symptoms they show themselves a little bit beforehand. They usually feel when it's coming on.
Yeah, no, I've experienced it myself, and that's actually, yeah, and with my mum. So it's yeah, and through breathing, it has helped a lot. Sometimes you have to go through it to heal it. Basically, you have to go through it again to then heal it. So yeah.
And Leonard's take on that was that they most likely had a out-of-body experience or high spiritual experience that they couldn't integrate properly.
Spot on. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Thank you.
Well, I will finish the recording now. Thank you for the participation. We don't have to finish. Yeah, we can stay on.
But I feel